Hello and welcome to Real Opinions. In today's episode I'm going to be reviewing M.Night Shyamalan's new film, Glass. This film is best described as an ensemble superhero film. It stars Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson and James McAvoy. And you may think that this is a sequel to Split 2 if you will, with Roman numerals in place of the I. But sadly, and I say that sincerely, no, you're wrong. This is the conclusion to the East Trail 177 trilogy. You know, the much lauded East Trail 177 trilogy by the visionary M.Night Shyamalan. Huh? You haven't heard of the East Trail 117 trilogy? No, me neither, not at all. And this is one of, in my opinion, the most blasé uses of the term trilogy that I have ever encountered. To the extent I think it comes across as a bit borderline arrogant. This trilogy was only revealed as a surprise at the end of 2016's Split. That is not in any way a spoiler, as the brief scene comes right at the tail end of the film and has no relevance to the plot of Split, but simply ties together and introduces the fact that these two completely separate narratives exist in the same world. For anyone that doesn't consider themselves to be a well-versed M. Night Shyamalan fan, Shyamalan fan for short, this most likely provoked in them at most a mild curiosity to open Wikipedia or IMDb whilst the credits rolled. And really that's unsurprising because Unbreakable, the first film in this so-called trilogy, was made 16 years prior to Split. Now, I'm not saying that you can't have a wide window of time between sequels, but if you go into Glass having not seen either of these two films, you're going to be left quite dumbfounded at times. And I think it's fair to say that it will be a struggle to sit through the full 2 hours and 9 minutes and not feel like you've been left in the dark regarding some elements of character setup and general context that help flesh out what's going on and understand what's motivating these characters. Glass is referred to as the conclusion in a trilogy. What we have here really is a bridge between two loosely related films that attempt to spawn a cinematic universe. Like so many other rushed attempts to emulate the Marvel formulae, Glass is muddled and underwhelming, which is a real shame. Its predecessors are both very engaging and unique films in their own right. However, Glass struggles to balance all the players involved in a satisfying narrative. For instance, we're introduced to Bruce Willis's character, David Dunn, returning protagonist from Unbreakable, and from the outset of the film, he's already bandied about with a number of different aliases, a number of different names, the Green Guard, the Overseer, and for anyone unfamiliar, it's not quite clear if you're meant to know who these aliases are, which one he is, or if this is just part of the new narrative. He plays an ex-security guard who allegedly has super strength and the ability to reveal the true intent or dark secrets that a person may have just by making physical contact with them. In the present day where we find him at the outset of Glass, he's now assisted by his grown-up son who's encouraging him to make use of his powers as a vigilante crime fighter. He's doing a bit of small-time, friendly neighborhood criminal catching, but the news that McAvoy's horde, as he's referred to in this world that M. Night Shyamalan's created, he's now at large, and this has given Bruce Willis's character David Dunn the opportunity to turn his talents to stopping a bigger, more ambitious foe. And the narrative pits these two against each other as combatants, but this is complicated by the use of McAvoy's returning anti-hero, Kevin, or the Horde, or the Beast, depending which of the 24 personalities is currently controlling him at that time. And very much like in Split before, a lot of the tension and a lot of the dramatic suspense centers around who will be in control of his being. But as the big bad for this film, it's really difficult because he's also, for that reason, the most sympathetic of these characters. You've then got, for very much of the first half of the film really, minimal performance, minimal time given in fact to Samuel L. Jackson's character Mr. Glass, who's this presence that's kept at arm's length. Aside from all of those things, it continues to be a lot of fun to watch McAvoy play his character, the Horde, splitting between a number of these different personalities, and we get many of the fan favourites from Split, but also some new ones. I don't think any of the newer characters really outperform the tried and tested favourites, Hedwig being one of the most entertaining, where James McAvoy plays a 9-year-old boy in a man's body. It's a lot of fun to watch James McAvoy really relishing this part and stealing a lot of the scenes that he is in. The introduction of a new player, Dr. Ellie Staple, who's played by Sarah Paulson, offers some of the film's most interesting ideas as it expands on some of the elements seen in Unbreakable and throws into doubt whether the central characters actually really possess any powers at all. It suggests that their beliefs are delusions that have come out from traumatic past and almost to an extent a coping mechanism. This plays out most interestingly for Kevin, James McAvoy, and the horde of personalities that he has. I think this is one of the reasons why the film can be so frustrating. It has these glimmers of really, really great ideas that just aren't given room to breathe. For fans of the two previous and superior efforts from Shyamalan, Glass offers some footnotes to his precursory narratives that tie up and resolve elements left out from the prior films. There's a really strong scene between Anya Taylor-Joy and McAvoy relatively early on in the second act that gives closure to some of her character's ordeal in Split, and it's a really great scene if you've seen Split. But otherwise, her character is largely wasted in Glass, and we see a character that was central to the previous film relegated to watching from the sidelines. But ultimately, this is part of a wide problem in a film that has too many characters vying for screen time and none of them really getting the focus that they need. Certainly, it's a symptom that plagues so many of these universe build bridge films. As a result, there's a lot of context and setup that's left out for the uninitiated. You're going to have a hard time keeping up and quite frankly caring as you bounce between characters, often with very little direction at who is meant to be doing what, and again, what is motivating them. I feel this is especially the case for Bruce Willis's character. There doesn't seem to be a lot going on for him actually after the first act and his setup, beyond the fact that he wants to fight the beast, but by this point as an audience, we're thoroughly engaged with James McAvoy's character as an anti-hero to an extent that it almost makes Bruce Willis's character very close-minded, that he's just determined to solve this with violence. We're given 3 leads of equal weight, yet they're all also adversaries of one another. And Shyamalan doesn't really ground us with any of the 3, and some may argue this was never his intention at all. And I'd say that great, but you even need to use that device effectively for some kind of purpose or payoff. Otherwise, what's the point if you're going to leave everyone wondering what they want from the narrative, who they want to succeed, especially when we're bounced between them throughout the film. Some may say that this is a nice break from formulaic structures at a time when the box office is saturated with very clean superhero films. But Glass doesn't deliver on that. Perhaps Glass wants to be edgy, but it's just not. The core of the film centers around a cliched institutionalization narrative and an inevitable breakout plot. There's a limp attempt at meta-narrative where Jackson's comic book obsessed character Mr. Glass points out and signposts the film's own structures, but the delivery of these moments are just so lackluster. They're so lazily done. His character almost looks to camera and says, it's the clash of the titans, or oh, they're gonna fight. It's like, well, yes, of course, we know that, and you're not particularly impressive to point that out. Anyone could do that. And I also get from it the faint whiff of superhero film snobbery, as if Shyamalan's trying to distance this film from the rest of the superhero genre and say, oh no, we're much better. Look at us, we're real clever. And it just doesn't sit quite right. As a superhero film, Glass is at its weakest. Now, without going into spoiler territory, the third act, where Glass riffs on the structure of the superhero action film most overtly, is also where it's at its most underwhelming. The climax offers a deflating outcome with baffling handling of Bruce Willis's character. I've mentioned already that the 3 leads are jostling for screen time throughout, and Bruce Willis's character really gets the short end of the stick in the last act. I haven't really talked that much about the titular Mr. Glass, but to be honest, there's really not a lot to say. It's a fairly run-of-the-mill Sam Jackson role. He says some badass things, gets a few money shots that can fly in some flamboyant outfits, and just does his usual thing. It's perfectly entertaining, but in a film that had a lot of promising potential and talent at its disposal, it's just another wasted opportunity. Glass just leaves you frustrated with the wasted potential of some very original concepts and characters. Ultimately, it leaves you asking why this film even got made, rather than a pair of much more straightforward sequels to Split and or Unbreakable that I think everyone would much rather had and probably would have enjoyed much more. If you've enjoyed this review, remember to give this video a like and subscribe to Real Opinions for more reviews and film discussion. I've been Chris Evans, thanks for listening.